Hi there! Well, today I'm on an adventure to find the ruin of an old chapel that dates to the 13th century. It's an old chapel just outside of the village of Llanbedr DC. I've been to the village quite a few times, not least because it's surrounded by a number of hill forts, two overlooking it actually. One, a very, very big one called Moel Famau, and another one just over the way there called Moel Llanbedr. Now, that generally translates Moel hill of the fort, Llanbedr. So we've got a very good naming convention in Wales that's very descriptive. Llanbedr, the village name, is similar. Llan basically means the church area, the parish, the church of Bedr, Pedr, Peter. So this is the old St Peter's Church of Llanbedr. Now it's in the Vale of Clwyd, and that's why it's called Llanbedr DC, Dyffryn Clwyd, so you can't get it mixed up. I'll just make my way through the kissing gate here and follow the public footpath up towards the church. Now you can see here from the sign, we get our first glimpse of the church up there, that it's called St Peter's Church Ruin, and it's generally known as Old St Peter's Church or Llanbedr Old Church, and the reason is because there's a new church. In 1859 there was an act of parliament to say basically it's not going to be used anymore. The graveyard was getting quite full. Now the new owner of the hall that sat just behind this church or chapel here actually said, you know, this is getting a bit ridiculous. He apparently commented at a funeral that he could see old human bones being exhumed at funerals because they were so shallow in the soil, and that he wouldn't give an inch more of his land to extend the churchyard here, but what he did do was build a new church just down the way. So the new church started to be built in 1863, and it was consecrated in 1864, but unfortunately the owner died the year before and was actually buried in this churchyard. So after the new church was built, which incidentally was designed by the same architects as the town hall, Ruthin, if you know it, or the Hall Abbey Cumhir, it was actually not used here. It was basically out of use, apart from for funerals. Now, they weren't allowed many more burials here because of the lack of space, but anyone who had a spouse who was already buried here was allowed to be buried here with them. And the last funeral took place in 1905. That being said, the church wasn't actually deconsecrated until 1991. And just arriving here now, what's a really lovely feeling is that it's a very, very peaceful place still, and it's very well looked after, and it's now looked after by the community and the community council, and it seems like a really good place to explore. So we'll go and have a look inside. But what you might be able to see is that it is a ruin, and the reason for that is because in 1896 it was recorded as being in such bad condition that they decided to take the roof off and lower the walls for safety reasons, basically, and that's why it basically looks like it does today. And it was very badly neglected, but the community have done a sterling job at making it a very well looked after and well loved place now. So let's go and have a look inside. Right, so just approaching the church now, and something you might notice before we go inside actually is this little niche here, and we think that might have been for what's called a stoop, and that would have held holy water, so you'd dip your fingers in and do the sign of the cross before you went into the church. So done that, let's go in. And then something I love looking out for in medieval buildings, you'll see them a lot in castles, but there's one here too. Well, there's a couple here actually. This one's actually a really good one, is "Oh, sun, go away," is a drawbar hole. So this kind of square feature here that you can kind of almost, if you want to, you can stick your arm all the way in, would have held a drawbar where you'd have put the bar across the door to close it and lock it at night. So let's go on in and see. We've just come through one doorway, and in the opposite wall here we can see another one that you can see this red line that goes across here would have originally been a door opening. It's obviously been blocked up at some point, and it uses this lovely red sandstone, as does this one that we've just come through, and another original doorway here. So I say original, the church dates back to the 13th century, but what's interesting is that there is a few different eras to this. So as we go along, see if you can see a difference in the wall here. You can see where this lovely red sandstone is used in the wall, but then it changes, and that marks a place where this was built on, extended. It was either rebuilt or it was made bigger here at the church. So this bit, the eastern bit of the church, actually dates to the 14th and 15th century. So just something to look out for when you're looking at architecture are just these kind of things that slightly jar and kind of look out of place. It shows you something, an event that happened in the building's history. So now we're heading towards the eastern end of the church, and you can see here that the original place where the eastern window here would have been, just the bottom bit of it really, and you can see that it would have had some lovely masonry, kind of dressed stone. Unfortunately, in older buildings, the lovely stone that they would have used for the surrounds of features would have been the most prized, and usually people took it and reused it in their houses. I suppose it was a way of recycling back then, but it means a lot of times castles and houses and churches were kind of looted for these things, and it's got the kind of insides of the walls that are left a lot of the time. But what's fascinating here is that if we look around, we can see the remains of some of this window down here. So you can see some beautiful dressed stone here, but if you can see this one here, it's almost identical to the one we can see in the window. So that at some point would have stood at some point, making the window bigger. Also in this location there are some grave slabs too, and this one here, I think this is the earliest one that's been recorded here in this churchyard, is of marking the grave of Margaret Clwyd, and she was a wealthy landowner, and this is dated to 1616, just at the bottom there. I don't know if you can just make it out, 1616. And my little connection to her is that she married, I think it was the youngest son of nearby Drawbar Hole, where I used to live quite a few years ago. Well, I didn't live at the hall, of course. I lived in a little barn conversion because I'm not part of the gentry, but that's my little connection to Margaret Clwyd here.